All righty, guys, what is up? We are back here again. It's another Friday. We got episode 11, I believe, here. Greg crawled out from the snowbank he was in and made it back to his office. Yeah, I think we're good to go here. You good, man?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So I kind of had a few topics that were not boring, but just kind of, I wasn't too excited about them. So I shelved those a little bit. And Greg brought up this cool concept that we're going to dive into, which is very relevant to anyone who's marketing a product. And it's kind of just a fun way to think about it. So why don't you kick it off with your angle, and then I've got some stuff to share as well.
Yeah, for sure. So it's really this idea. Right before you hopped on, you mentioned this has Inception vibes, and it really does. It's this idea that when you think about all the things that you want, right? Your goals, your dreams, your desires, like where did they come from? And most of us think, well, I want them, right? Like I decided that this is something I want. But in reality, and there's some research around this, in reality, what seems to happen is that most of our desires are implanted by other people. And what I mean by that is, let's say you are somebody who wants to jump into this entrepreneur game, right? Maybe specifically e-commerce. And I was giving Ben this exact example earlier, right? A lot of people in the space, they have this idea, there's like a particular number-oriented goal that is the thing that they're after, right? Oh, I want to, for some people, it's, I want to have an extra $10,000 a month, right? And then once you get some traction, it's like, okay, I want to hit $100,000 a month. I want a seven-figure business, right? And there's these milestones that we attach importance to, but really, like, why is that important, right? And what I discovered about myself in chasing some of my own goals is that what happened was, like, I had this, when I started entrepreneurship and business ownership, the goal was time freedom, financial freedom, right? I think we can all say, yeah, that's fundamentally underneath a lot of what we do. But then the question is, okay, how do we get there? And then what we do is we attach ourselves to some methodology, right? Some guru or somebody in the space that we see living the life that we think we want. And then we attach, we're like, oh, well, that's how you do it, right? They're talking about hitting seven figures in X amount of time. That means what I need to have as my goal is I need to have a seven-figure business in X amount of time, right? But our desire for that goal it didn't exist until we saw it in somebody else. And we saw it and it was portrayed as desirable to us. So this is why a lot of the young money bros have the Lambos, right? Who cares? Well, it's because they saw somebody else having it, right? And they're like, oh, I know I've got it made when I'm the guy with the Lambo. And so they chase that thing because that becomes the proxy for the thing that got him into the game in the first place. You know what I mean? Because we can talk about this. Like, you don't actually, if you just want financial and time freedom, you don't necessarily need a seven-figure business, right? That's one way to do it, but there's other ways to do that. So this idea is called mimetic desire. And what it means is that a lot of our desires we mimic from seeing other people desiring things. And this is important for two reasons. Number one, if we can recognize it in ourselves, it gives us more self-awareness about the things that we chase, the things we put focus on, and to have clarity about what's actually important to getting to those ultimate goals that we really do desire. But then number two, you can use this in your marketing, right? This is one of the fundamental reasons why product reviews and social proof work. It's demonstrating that other people have desired this thing, and it makes you desire it more. So I'll leave it at that. We can, I don't know, let's take the discussion in whatever direction you want to get. But that was the point that I wanted to throw out there, because I think it's really interesting and not many people are aware that this exists. But if you are in the game of selling stuff to people, this is really important stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool because I see this. I love the two-sided approach. The one is recognizing it in yourself and how it may have impacted you, or how you may have been kind of pulled into that. And then the other one is realizing how you can leverage it in your marketing. So I kind of joke that like over a few years, I've been brainwashed by podcasts and Twitter and content really to um to accomplish some of the things that I've accomplished and to embark on the journeys that I've embarked on. And that's a good thing. But what's neat is that a lot of it was what you're talking about. It was hearing people that I related to talk about these things, but then the the way they talked about fulfilling, if you have these desires, it's entrepreneurship. The life of it's the life of an entrepreneur, which can be true. It can be not true, but it definitely can be true. And so I was like, that's it. That's, I'll do what they did. So it's really neat and it's really powerful. It's really powerful to identify that. Like there's probably, like you said, there's different people, gurus or whatever you might resonate with, but it's neat to kind of reflect on how their metrics maybe became your metrics for achieving the outcome that you wanted to get to. 10K a month freelancing, yeah, seven-figure ecom brand, whatever launch, these different things. But bringing it back to the product, I think this is or selling something, I think it's really cool because it's a yeah, it's just a really powerful force if you can kind of harness some of that, piggyback on some of that, or identify how you can leverage that in selling your own thing. A lot of it is kind of piggybacking because when you can kind of tap into these these desires that are kind of communally shared by certain niches of people, you basically like steal credibility for your thing. So if you know your audience is following certain people or they'll get certain references, you can start to do it in that way just by these little references. Um and and that works. But then yeah, more specifically, how can you put your product as one of these essentially like solutions to those, journeys that people are on, that the fulfillment of that, even if it's something, as mundane as, I mean, I'm selling skincare stuff, like, but bringing it back down, harnessing it, super cool.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, maybe we can touch on some examples of how we might use this as product sellers, as marketers, or we could point to examples where it got used on us
Mhm.
in our own lives.
Mhm.
I don't know which should we jump on. I'm fine with either.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll start. I'm a huge like supplement buff. Like I don't even know if buff's the right word. Maybe guinea pig is a better word, but like I love being sold on stuff. I love when a brand makes a good association and they talk about uh you know, if I'm their target audience, they talk about a lifestyle or a feeling that you'll have when you have this product. And I buy into that. I think it's part of the reason I love marketing is I love being sold to as well. So I can give multiple examples of things that I've been really excited to buy, um, because at some level I believe they're going to deliver a result. And I'm a marketer, like I know what they're doing. So I'll talk about this one example. There's this guy, Greg O'Gallagher's name. He's a fitness dude. The joke is that he made millions by taking his shirt off, which is not totally wrong. He's a kind of a ripped, good looking dude. He's from up here actually in Toronto, probably a multi 8-figure brand at this point, which is super impressive. So he sold workout programs starting out, but his whole thing was the idea of the movie star body, which is not the bodybuilding world where you big and puffy and you can't move, but it's aesthetically attractive, and it's James Bond, it's Brad Pitt and Troy, it's these, just tapping into these desire. Oh, what does an attractive man look like, and what do women find attractive, just leaning into that whole thing. Started with workout programs, but now he sells supplements, and he's got this pre-workout, and I'm not like a big pre-workout guy. Like I think a lot of them, aren't great, But in his emails and in his marketing, he tied in the feeling of taking his pre-workout, not just with working out, but with feeling like this accomplished kind of, he calls them the Kino warriors, his customers, like the feeling of being a capable, accomplished entrepreneur, athlete. And I was like, that's what I want. Like, that's how I want to feel. And uh, I've bought a few of them. I've probably spent a few $100s on this pre-workout. And it's good. It's a good product, but I just wanted to be a winner. And so I wanted the pre-workout that made me a winner.
That's awesome. Another good example that I think people will understand just right off the bat, is beauty and fashion. And what I mean by that is, let's examine what was considered beautiful, like feminine beauty, over the last several hundred years, right? That ideal woman has changed over time, right? In a number of different ways. So I don't know. I'm towing the line with cancellation territory here, so I'm going to be careful. We're only on episode 11,
Yeah.
but you can go back and, what was considered a beautiful woman in 1929, what was considered a beautiful woman in 1955, what was considered a beautiful woman in 1980, and what was considered a beautiful woman in 2023.
I'm gonna have to like look this up now.
They're different. Like the shape is different. The hairstyle, facial features. What is just in fashion, right?
Right.
Clothing, style, all that stuff. And what's crazy, right? Because from a marketing perspective, right, it's not that hard to imagine that you just put all these images up and you're like, yeah, this is beauty, right? You're like, okay, yeah, they can say whatever they want. But the thing is, societally, if you survey people of that time about, hey, select the most beautiful woman from a lineup, they are picking that image of beauty that's being portrayed by the media, by advertising, all that stuff. And they change over time, right? Like I'm talking ratios and this and that, like different ratios have been deemed as most attractive differently over the last 100 years. And the men of that time agree with that archetype. So then it's like, but what is that? Is that an objective truth? Like, how did that change? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And I think it's mimetic desire. It is the basically the marketing engine for a particular, I don't know. I don't know quite how this kicks off,
Yeah.
but these archetypes of beauty are put forth by the media, by advertising, and then societally people just kind of agree, oh yeah, that's beauty, and then it drives their decisions in terms of fashion and products that they buy, and spouses, like people that they choose as partners, is determined by these marketing messages,
By the copywriters.
by the copywriters, right? By the graphic designers.
Yep. They sold you your spouse and you don't even know it. No,
Yeah.
I'm
So anybody
exaggerating,
who
but it's
thinks that this is baloney and you're like, oh, that's fine, but I'm not manipulated, just look at this. Go and Google it or ask ChatGPT to show you images of what, well, I don't know what ChatGPT will give you, but go and Google and look up what was considered beautiful in different decades throughout the last century. And it's
yep.
totally different. And there's no other explanation for that.
Yep.
Those ideals are implanted in us by the messages that we receive.
Yep. 100%. And I mean, it's just funny because that I think we've all maybe had that, whatever, it's a history class or something where you're like, it was fashionable to do this. You're like, oh, it's so like goofy or funny, or and it's like the wigs, like they used to wear the wigs, things like that, and you're like, wow, and it's like, well, that's what was attractive. Um, so it's super cool. I'm trying to think. I mean, right now, I think so. There's timeless kind of, I think, undercurrents,
Mhm.
but right now, fitness has become this massive. It's almost this mainstream thing now where you know, this has always been true, but health is now attractive, right? It's very much like, are you do you go to the gym? Do you, fitness has become this sign of I think we're being told that that's attractive because it's just such a big industry. Objectively, yes, there's definitely kind of things that going on there, but yeah, it's neat to look around and see, okay, what's being kind of, how is that being used, right now? Or, and then more specifically, how can I tap into that for what I'm selling? So maybe we could dive into some of that. Like um, how would you go about thinking about this if you're marketing a product
Mhm.
and trying to, make this more practical, distill this down for whatever for, yeah, we can come up with
Yeah,
a specific example.
absolutely. Well, I think what we need to do, it's been said by marketers wiser than me that it's difficult or impossible to create desire, but you can channel desire. And so I think that is the play here. If we want to make our product attractive and desirable, we need to channel an already existing desire. For example, earlier I said a lot of people get into this game because they want freedom. Well,
Mm,
let's continue with the gender stereotypes. Typically, the men are chasing freedom and the women are chasing security in some sense, and so they see business ownership as a means to that end, right?
yep,
For the men, it's framed more like we have financial and time freedom. Those are the words I used earlier. For a woman, it might be more like financial security,
yep,
right? Those undercurrents exist. So
yep,
those are very deep undercurrents, right?
yep,
So in the make money space, in the entrepreneur space, if you can tap into that and show that my particular product or my particular mechanism is is the best way to achieve the freedom or to achieve the security,
yep.
right?
Yeah, 100%. So I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and we were just talking about higher level some of these, what you alluded to there, these desires that are already there, and yeah, that I think it's breakthrough advertising, that book where he talks about, you know, learn about the great desires that are there, learn how to channel them, and to put your product, in front of them. And the make money one's such a great one because the desires you speak to are just so human. And so I was joking about, yeah, I was joking about, people have probably seen these landing pages and these ads, but you can just, it's so easy to put the vehicle as the fulfillment of those desires without getting into too much of the nuance there. Let's take the freedom entrepreneur thing versus the 9 to 5, which is kind of this big contrast, right? And just the way you can, identify desire there or frustration, you know, um, tired of just building someone else's dreams, sick of coming home exhausted from a day of unfulfilling work. um you might be tired every day anyways, regardless of what you're doing, but like you can just put it on that, you can put it on that job, you can put it on the place where they're, you know uh not getting enough time with your family because you're, commuting, all these things that are um just very common experiences. People can be like, yeah, like I do desire like more time with my family, more freedom. I am frustrated sometimes with, you know, the way I have to spend my time at work. And then what's shown to you is, well, then remote sales closing is for you.
Right.
Whatever that thing is will be and the content that you'll start to see if you explore this stuff is these the design, yeah, how other people have basically been like, well, I was in your position and then I achieved this, and that's the vehicle out of it. And you're like, okay, that's what it is.
It's so funny. I wasn't even going to go in this direction, but based on what you just said, I am. So the email that I sent out to my list this morning, I posted it on social media last night, but we had a big snowstorm in Denver yesterday and today, and I was late to our call because I was digging my wife's car out of the middle of the street because it was stuck, right?
Mhm.
But I made this email and this post basically saying I used to be really stressed out about snow days because if I couldn't make it in to work, and I was specifically referencing I owned my own business, but I was just totally beholden to clients and deadlines all the time. Like I had no freedom. And snow days used to stress me out because it's like, if I can't get in there and help fulfill what we need to do for customers, then, they might pay late, and that impacts us being able to pay like 10 people a paycheck.
Mhm.
And that's so stressful, right? So I felt like I was never actually off work. I was always on call because something broke. I had to be there to fix it to make sure everybody got paid at the end of the month.
Mhm.
Um, and it sucked. Like I was just a ball of stress if something happened and I couldn't meet my obligations. And what I was describing is, yesterday we got stuck, kids were home from school. I still got my work done. And my work yesterday was I hosted a Zoom call with a friend and mentor who was talking to some of my people about some really cool like copywriting and like cult building techniques.
Mhm.
And I sent some emails, and then I helped the kids make a snow fort, and it was cool. Like it's a I live a very different life than I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I put that post together kind of to remind myself, like, I I did like this is desirable. I have something that I desired, and I need to remind myself that I have it. But it was also throwing a fish hook in the water, right?
Mhm.
Describing my day under these circumstances and relating it to what my life used to be like, which I know resonates with a lot of people. And the idea it would, the bait on the hook was basically if you're trapped in a pair of golden handcuffs, I'm pretty good at picking locks. I picked my own lock. And so, next step would be click here, or next step would be hit reply. Just to kind of start a conversation with other people who had who experienced desire for what I have, because I can help them get that. Right. So
Yep.
I turned that thing into a marketing message using exactly the idea that we're talking about today.
Yep. Yeah. It's super cool. I think I'm thinking about, I mean, it's messages like that that you start to see again and again that unconsciously you start to desire the things that they have because if you don't know the answer to the thing, it's hard to just come up with it. Like I think that you mentioned it earlier when you ask someone what they want, people usually don't really know. All they can do is kind of point, and um, they point to things that they perceive as to have been true for someone else. And I mean that's what we do. We kind of model. So this concept of mirroring desire, like looking on the one hand, okay, what was their problem, and then did they solve it? And it's like, okay, so that means remote work, self-directed schedule, things like that. And then, I mean, then you're willing to buy into those solutions because you're like, it's those specific things that get me there. On Twitter, there's a lot of in this sort of health community, there's a lot of this looks maxing movement. So I was actually just writing an email about that for my business, and it's this sort of that you have agency in how good you look, that you can change, you can manipulate to maximize your God-given appearance. And that's a very powerful idea for people because who doesn't want to be more attractive? I mean, most people want to be more attractive. Okay, but what does that mean? That's kind of open-ended, that's kind of vague. Do you want to be more attractive? Yes. Okay, well, you need to chew this gum because that's how I became more attractive. It's like, oh my gosh, of course, like gum for my jaw. Or it's, are you not putting tallow on your face? Like, do you know how much of the looks you're missing out on because you're not using the specific vehicle. And then you're like, okay, well, I do want to be better looking because we want to be better looking. And then what is the thing that's desirable to get me that outcome? And that's where people point to these, products, habits, whatever it is, courses. And so maybe that brings it a little bit back to just if people are selling a physical product, um, when people are looking around for these, they, you know, they have these desires, and then they're looking around and seeing what is the what is the vehicle, or how can you become a specific for that desire. You know, if they're looking around, other people are doing this thing, or there's this movement towards something, and they're like, okay, I want that. Uh, you want to place your product to be one of those specific vehicles. Am I getting that right? Like, I know the mimetic desire one's tough because it's okay, you're mirroring a desire. Um, but then we also do that, we mirror the solution for the desire, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We mirror
Yeah.
the desire and the solution for the desire. And it doesn't always work. Like sometimes it backfires. What you were talking about attractiveness, and it reminded me that 12 months ago, I got hit by an ad on Instagram. It was this brand of t-shirt that makes you look good if you have a beer belly. And I'm like, what the
Right.
hell? And first of all, it was an interesting ad. Like I can totally see how that works, but I'm like, why did I get targeted with this? And I'm like, maybe I need to like maybe I need so that kind of like kickstarted just some better fitness and eating stuff for me. And I think I'm down 10 pounds from that ad getting served to me. So it created some sort of desire, but I didn't buy one of their t-shirts.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you go out on a bit of a limb, maybe, you know, and you'll see kind of what works and what doesn't. But this is a big one for supplements, I think. This is a big
Mhm.
one for if you're in the supplement space. Because what's neat about those is you can kind of, the marketing is a lot of the product, really. Talked about that pre-workout. And so a lot of the sort of setup can be, you know, yeah, what is the outcome people are looking for? And then how's your product, that the vehicle that they can use, that other people have used. Um, but yeah, when you think about this, it's a great framework to just think about your copy, think about your landing page, and how when people read it or find it or go through it, they can be like, okay, you know, it's resonating with the desire, and it's in a potential, you know, fulfillment of that desire, and ideally a proven one through the social proof.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, I am curious, dude, how are you liking the gum? Because I've been looking at the gum.
Yeah, so I it's funny. So I mentioned that in my email as well, and I I have been enjoying it partially because I just, once again, I like these little hacks. I like trying them out. But I think I've done 10 days, and I do think I've seen like a difference. I maybe it's, you know, what are they, the placebo, I don't know for sure. But I definitely feel that I'm getting a workout. It makes sense to me that working out a muscle that much more would define your face more.
Mhm.
Um, so I like it as a feeling like I'm doing something proactively. Um, and it's kind of just fun. So I've gotten a few different brands. There's some cool brands out there. Um, I do have to say there's one on Amazon that I just really liked. So
Yeah, nice.
uh,
We'll have to talk afterwards.
yeah,
I got a it was like a silicone block jaw exerciser because I was interested in the same thing, and
yep,
I used that for I basically chewed through it. Like I didn't replace it yet, but um you know, like if you're chewing, I could
yeah,
feel the muscles definitely got stronger over time
yep,
just by how many chews you could do before you
yeah,
just got exhausted. So it's interesting. Even if there's nothing to it, it's still I'm just fascinated by the marketing. Like
yeah,
again, 6 months ago, I had no desire to choose something to like define my jaw more. Like I didn't even desire a more defined jaw.
right.
But you see all the Chad memes and you're like, oh, that is right. That is a definition of successful and attractive in my eyes now. I'm like, well, yeah, what can I do to chisel that jaw? So funny. It again, I know exactly what's going on, and yet it still works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last thing I'll touch on, man. I just had an idea, product idea. Maybe we should do this. But in so all the mastic gums are plant based. It's basically tree resin or tree sap.
Yeah.
You could probably do an animal based version using like tendon, right?
Mm.
Like
Right.
freeze dried cow tendon or something, and just get that chew motion in, but make it animal based. I don't know if you could do that, but
Love that,
someone
dude.
I know 100 people that would at least buy one.
Yeah, you put like the it's like lion jaw or something, and you show
Yeah.
like a lion with like an angle on their face. I love
So
that.
easy. We could, I mean, it's like
Case study.
it is. I mean, we could just throw a pre-order out and make 10
Yeah,
grand with doing no work. I know that it would work. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's cool. I love ideas like that. It's funny because that was actually one that I never delved into it too much, but I had always put it on the back burner. I was like, just a fun thing to market, you know?
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that idea. Uh, yeah, cool. I think that's pretty much it. Um, this can, it can be a little deep, but this can really help. Yeah, I've been doing a few kind of just consults with some people doing landing pages and thinking about their marketing message, and uh that can be confusing, and you can be thinking about all these different tactics and check boxes. But if you can start to think about it in this way of, how are you harnessing the desire and giving a result for it? And how are other brands similar to you doing that? Because those customer journeys are very similar. So we'll leave it there. And yeah, we'll be back next week maybe with our landing page or ad for our
Lion
animal
jaw.
based scum. Alrighty. See you guys next week.